Good morning, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Amber Trippa, and I'll be the facilitator today. I'm so happy to see you all. First, I'd like to welcome our guest speaker for today, Inge. Inge Detweiler is a reverend. She was born in Denmark and raised in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She obtained her Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from Temple University and completed her Master of Education in mental health counseling at Ohio University. She attended Andover Newton Theological School, where she earned her Master of Divinity degree. Inge is ordained with the United Church of Christ. She brings over 35 years, which is as old as I am. My whole life she's been doing this, in the behavioral health field, and has served in the behavioral health industry in a variety of capacities, including both direct service and executive management positions. Additionally, Inge served as hospice chaplain for Tucson Medical Center for 6 years, providing spiritual care for patients, family, and staff. Inge currently serves Borderlands Unitarian Universalist Church in Amado as their full-time pastor. Please join me in welcoming Inge.
Thank you.
I also have announcements. My first announcement, we gave $703 to the Better Bucks for school members who are not able to afford the school lunches and have a debt. We have a letter here. We are in receipt of the generous $703 donation by Sky Island Unitarian Universalist. I can't get that today. To Better Bucks in support of our Better Meals program. We will work closely with the Sierra Vista Unified School District to ensure that this assistance goes to help reduce school meal debt with an emphasis on the neediest families. Better Bucks of Sierra Vista is grateful for your support of Better Bucks and our programs. Thank you guys all for contributing to helping our students in our Sierra Vista schools. And that is my announcement.
Today, you did not make it no choice. So, you hurt my feelings by not going outside. So that's why I didn't want to make this a small choice. You know, earlier, I couldn't go outside, so I was still a little sad.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but that was a consequence.
But after I was a little sad, I was a little bit upset. More than a little.
More than a little upset?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We all get upset sometimes.
Yeah.
We don't get what we want all the time.
Mama also don't. Papa also don't. But it's hard for babies to do that. They're still babies. They don't understand they have to not do that. You know, earlier, baby dropped the plate and Papa got angry at her, and I told Papa to make this. I told Papa to stop breathe slow and make a small choice for Papa.
And then did he do it?
Yeah, but earlier I chose to be a tiny bit mad, but after a while I was okay.
You were okay? Life is like that. We get upset, we get mad, we cry.
That's emotions, Mama.
That's emotions, I know. And then we feel better after we cry.
Yep. You do, even when you're upset or angry. Always different kinds of feelings. Even though when you're scared.
That's another emotion.
Yeah, a different kind of emotion. No, I was wrong. Today, I had a hard time doing my emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is today.
That's okay.
But
We're learning. You're learning also.
Even though when I was that mad, you still love me that so much?
Of course. Always.
Yeah, I love you too.
Hi. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome to Sky Island Unitarian Universalist Church here in Sierra Vista. No matter who you are, no matter where you've come from, no matter what journey you are currently on, you are welcome here. I am Inge, Pastor Inge, and very much looking forward to this Sunday and getting to know all of you and you having an opportunity to get to know me. So if you would just take a moment to take a deep breath with me. Oh, yeah. And I invite you to join your hearts with mine in our chalice lighting this morning. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Also to be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around this light of hope as we share this time together.
Did you guys miss me? I'm back again. This time, we're going to go over our joys and sorrows. We are a caring congregation and share what gives us joy and what weighs heavily on our heart. I will read the joys and sorrows I have here. Are there any more in the back? Okay. People on Zoom, you may put your joys and sorrows in the chat on Zoom or turn off mute and speak them out loud at this moment. Okay. I have a joy or a sorrow, or kind of both here, from Robbie Rouse, who's thinking of his dad who would have been 98 today. Happy birthday. And according to the refreshment sign up, on June 30th, a fifth Sunday, we will be having a potluck. That's a joy for me. I don't know about you guys. Now we'll add stones for all the joys and the sorrows that fill our hearts but have not been said out loud today. Or Inge will be doing that. That's okay.
So we begin with our meditation. This is The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be cleaning you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them all at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Oh, that's an Alaska picture. I just got back from Alaska. 3 weeks. So. All right, first, how about that baby? Oh, he'll be a spiritual leader someday for sure. Perhaps the next Buddha even. And how about his parents? They're teaching him not only how to communicate his feelings, but also how to regulate them, how to take ownership of them, and how to have compassion and empathy. Incredible, right? Yeah. I think, we don't know 100%, but I think he's 3 or 4 years old. And if every parent did this with their children, enlightenment and peace would be our future. Can I get an amen? Amen. We start with an important premise, and it is this. So y'all know the title of my sermon, How to Stay Centered When the Shit Hits the Fan. So the first premise is there are no emergencies except for 3. bodily injury, threat of loss of life, and destruction of property. If your house is burning down to the ground, if someone is trying to physically hurt you, if you're dying from a terminal illness or serious accident, these are events that require strong emotional and physical reactions and responses in order to keep ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually safe. Anything other than these three situations does not meet the criteria for requiring strong reactionary responses. These are crises. The shit hitting the fan is not a crisis. The shit hitting the fan are those hard places, those uncomfortable moments when we feel annoyed, frustrated, disappointed, even angry. Yet we do have strong emotional responses to the shit hitting the fan. Right? Yeah. Why does this happen? To answer that question, we first need to understand where our emotions come from. So we're going to get into a little brain science now. Our emotions live in that part of our brain called the limbic system. Here's how it works. The limbic system acts as a bridge between the neocortex, so that part of the brain that helps us to think, reason, and consciously process our emotions, and the brainstem, the part of our brain that does the autopilot work of keeping the body alive without conscious thought. For example, breathing, digesting. There are 4 parts to the limbic system. The first is the thalamus, which decides what to pay attention to. So, for example, your house is on fire. The thalamus decides that's the only thing to pay attention to and alerts the amygdala. The amygdala is where our emotional responses live. So in this case, let's say fear and anxiety. The amygdala then lets the hypothalamus know what's going on. The hypothalamus regulates body temperature, heart rate, sleep, hunger, and so on. The hypothalamus also maintains homeostasis. So the amygdala, these are hard words to say in a single sentence, the amygdala alerts the hypothalamus with fear and anxiety that the house is on fire, and this triggers one of 3 responses in the hypothalamus: fight, flight, or freeze. Finally, there's the hippocampus, where our long and short-term memory lives, and it is where learning happens. Our brain communicates with its different parts through chemicals. When we are threatened, the brain communicates via adrenaline and cortisol, and when something good happens, our brain communicates via dopamine, oxytocin, and serotonin. So back to the house on fire, 3 responses, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. Which is it?
Fight. Well, if you're in the house, I suggest flight.
Okay. Right? So here's the thing to keep in mind, because we also heard freeze. So we heard flight and freeze. Anybody have a vote for fighting the fire, right? Okay, yeah. So the other thing that's interesting about this is that what do you think plays into how we respond? We've got 3 options. We've heard different. We're like, I would fight it. I would probably freeze. I would probably get the heck out of the house. What accounts for that? The differences.
Size of the fire.
Yeah, right. So you can see there certainly that, but personality, previous experience, right? I was in a fire, so now anytime anything kind of lights up, what do you think I do? I freak out and I'm out of there. No. Yeah. Okay. So emotions live in our brain, and they begin with a thought or series of thoughts and physical sensations. Here's something really wild. Check this out. Have you ever talked about an event that happened a really long time ago, and you start to feel the emotions associated with that event? How many? Hands raised. How many here have had that experience? Yeah, right? Okay. It's crazy, right, if you think about it. So just thinking about an event can trigger strong emotions. We create our emotions through thought. The other piece to this is that no one has control over our thoughts, which means no one has control over our emotions except us. And what that means is we cannot be held responsible for the mechanisms in someone else's brain that produce certain feelings and emotions. But here is what we can take responsibility for. We can take responsibility for listening. We can take responsibility for trying to understand. We can take responsibility for having empathy and taking responsibility for the outcome. It really doesn't matter what our intentions were, but we can stay in the hard place of outcome. We may not have intentionally hurt a person's feelings, but we can acknowledge that hurt feelings happened. And we can feel really sorry about those hurt feelings, and we might also need to adjust our behaviors. Of course, the person we hurt has their share of responsibility too. One is to stay in the hard place and share their feelings, and to recognize that blame does not ever create opportunities for healing. Would y'all agree with me on that? Yeah. Do you think this child knows that? Yup. 3 years old, right? He's already figured it out. One caveat here is if we are dealing with a person who is intentionally hurting us with malice and forethought, that means we have decisions to make in order to protect and take care of ourselves, and that's called setting boundaries. See the difference? Intentional, not intentional? How to navigate that? Okay. So the work of staying centered when the shit hits the fan begins with the ability to identify our emotions and to understand how we got there. That work is almost impossible to do if we are stuck in blaming. Once our emotions are identified, we can take responsibility for our emotions, which equals accountability and managing them. In other words, we step out of blaming. Does that make sense? Y'all with me? Yeah. I need to see some head nods or some smiles or like, no, you're off base, Inge. Give me something, people. I had lots of emotion the week of April 28th. After I preached a sermon in which a few folks' feelings at Borderlands got hurt. Now we're talking 3 people, okay? But nonetheless, their feelings got hurt. That sermon happened during a week in which I'm a cancer survivor. I had an infusion that causes bone pain. Then, one of my crowns cracked as I'm leaving the infusion appointment. Then, one of my dogs starts having explosive diarrhea in which there is nothing but blood, followed by 3 hours at the emergency vet hospital, and I still had not written my sermon. Oh dear is right. All the feels. All the feels. I promise you that if I hadn't been able to identify them, sit with them, work through them, I would not have been able to respond in a loving way to those who were hurt by something I said in that sermon. Right? Yeah. We aren't always able to accomplish emotional regulation when the shit is hitting the fan. Sometimes, with all the emotions, it's too much. Even though it isn't a crisis, there's no threat of loss of life, limb, or destruction of property, and that's where self-compassion comes into play. We don't always get it right. And we can be very, very hard on ourselves. Too hard sometimes. Self-compassion is understanding that we are human and that in our humanness, we mess up sometimes. And like the little boy who curls up in his mother's lap, there were some distractions, but did you all see that? Yeah. Did everybody see that? So like this little boy who curls up in his mother's lap, we love ourselves the way this mother loves her boy. How many of you do that? Love yourselves the way this mother loves her boy. The better we are at loving ourselves, the better we are at loving others. Another part of staying centered when the shit hits the fan is setting healthy boundaries. Here's a quick story about boundaries. So as a hobby of mine, I have worked in the field of canine rehabilitation for 20 years. And I'm a canine rehabilitation specialist. This is purely a hobby of mine, but I work with the ones that are about to be euthanized because of very serious behavior problems. So often when my clients call the first time, they will say, my dog has no boundaries. Right? Then I arrive at their house and the dog is barking and jumping on me, maybe even showing teeth, whatever, while the owners stand there and do nothing. So when we say that people in our lives don't have boundaries, it isn't because they don't. It's more often because we aren't setting them. If boundaries are being crossed and we don't set them, those boundaries will continue to be crossed. So in addition to healthy boundary setting, there is also what we call the power of pause. We can only practice the power of pause if we have awareness. And awareness begins with being in our bodies. So remember, back to the amygdala and the hypothalamus and all those things, right? When you start to feel your blood pressure go up, or that sinking feeling or nervousness in your stomach, it's time to pause and take a breath and check in with yourself. I told Papa, take a breath. Yeah. Whoa, right? Mind blowing. When we're able to do this, we can have a conversation that starts with, here's what's going on with me. In other words, with me, as opposed to you did this, you said that, which is blaming, So here's what's going on with me. I've come to learn that feelings aren't fact. Now, usually when I say this, people get all like, what do you mean? Emotions are unreliable. Now, this doesn't mean that feelings aren't valid and real. There's a difference, right, between saying a feeling is a fact and saying that a feeling is valid and is real. And here's the other deal, people. We all have the right to our feelings. Sometimes, in terms of feelings being unpredictable, sometimes frustration is really, I'm scared my dog is dying. My story, right? And anger is really, I feel hurt and sad right now and out of sorts because my bones hurt. Check this out. Did you all know that on average, 70,000 thoughts go through our heads per day? You knew that, Becky.
No, I believe it.
Yeah. 70,000. And this is what makes emotional self-awareness hard. And why the power of the pause is so important. All the work that I'm speaking about amounts to what is called emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is about consciousness and self-development. It is about the pause and empathy and compassion. It is understanding that, to quote Anais Nin, we do not see things as they are. We see things as we are. I think that's worth repeating. We do not see things as they are. We see them as we are. We all have our own lenses through which we see the world. And those lenses inform our perceptions. Our lenses are shaped through our lived experience. All of our lived experience. The good, the bad, and the ugly. If we aren't aware of how those lived experiences have impacted us, we will have trouble regulating our emotions in situations where the shit is hitting the fan, because in that moment we aren't responding, we are reacting out of our own past hurts. And those past hurts are now in the driver's seat. Does that make sense? There's actually a formula for staying centered when the shit hits the fan. And it is this. Number one, begin to learn about and understand how the brain works in the world of emotions. Number two, know your triggers and how to experience them in your body. 3, when you're triggered, practice the power of the pause. And finally, 4, learn emotional regulation skills so that you can use them to avoid reaction. It's called in many fields being conscious. I'll close with this. M.C. Richards, educator, poet, and potter, wrote an essay called Centering, and I highly recommend it. She asks at one point, why do we all turn off our hearing aids? Her words, not mine. When we start hearing people talk about improving our honesty and reverence, our compassion, wonder, and conscience, she posits that it's because it often has the flavor of the morality that came from our parents, teachers, and authorities. And she suggests that this consciousness is having to find its own way. Richard's remedy is to reconnect through our own experience and imagination to something that we may be willing to call wonder or compassion or love. And most importantly, she concludes that we cannot find it outside of ourselves. It has to come from the inside. It has to be ours. It has to be new. Blessed be. All right. Now it's your turn. Questions, comments, reflections. What you got?
You took me back to one of my classes when I was working on my master's degree in counseling.
Oh, there you go. Right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. Okay. Yep. Yep.
Oh. I got to say it again, evidently. She took me back to when I was working on my master's degree in 1981, and the degree was in counseling and guidance. And, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll start asking questions. All right, anyone struggled? Up. See, saved by the gentleman in the back. He just raised his hand.
When I was working on my master's degree, I don't want to do this. This is going to be a real grind. But I'll make my decision after I've got it, then I'll see if it was worthwhile. One more thing. Fear, flight, freeze, or figure. Which one am I going to pick?
Did you say figure?
Figure.
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting one to add.
There's also fawn.
Fawn? Uh-huh.
Terebra.
Yeah, uh-huh, absolutely.
I have a sign that I have on my wall at home that I look at every day. You're the only person who thinks in your mind. So if you think others are driving you crazy, you've got it wrong. It's the way you think about others that's the problem. You can always choose different thoughts.
Anyone be in that place where, the shit's hitting the fan and you're getting annoyed and frustrated and disappointed and feelings start coming up and your heart starts racing, and anyone had that experience? Really? None of you have had that experience? None of you have ever been annoyed by anyone in your lives? I love it. I love it. Woo. So when you were a teacher, it was daily. So when you're how many of you serve on committees? Show of hands. How many of you serve on committees? So you telling me that in committee meetings you never had that experience? So when that happens, right, what do you do? What do you do when that happens? I'd be curious to hear, breath work, bite my tongue. What else? Huh?
Commit. You're on a committee.
Commit. Yeah, right. Yeah, no, absolutely, right? So that's what I hear is that's remembering what our covenant is and what our purpose is, right? What am I really here for? Yeah. Principles before personalities, as they say. Any other thoughts or reflections? Comments, feedback to me? No? All right. Thank you. Move through the world in love. We extinguish this flame, but not its meaning and mission in our hearts. Our time together has come to an end. Go in peace. Be of service to one another. And may you move through the world in love for all of your days. Amen.
Amen.